close the current bank account once the checks are cashed and all that stuff.
All right. Any questions for Will at all?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, a second by Luthens to consider the creation of a new bank account for the Sheriff's Office jail. Any discussion?
Will, or
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair?
Yep.
That is, who oversees that? Would that be you? I mean, who actually watches, and the only person that can write against it is the inmate, or do you have to countersign it, or how does that work?
So the sheriff's office clerical balance the accounts, they cut checks, and the inmates don't actually like have anything to do with the actual bank account. We deposit their money. It's all sheriff's office personnel, the clerical team that balance the stuff
Okay.
and make the deposits.
Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
As well. Next up, Health and Human Services. We'll be covering that today.
I will, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Item 8, consider approving the revised McLeod County Guardian and Conservator reimbursement policy with implementation effective May 1, 2023. You've discussed this at previous workshops. In accordance with Minnesota Statutes 524.5-502, compensation and expenses for professional guardians and conservators, McLeod County has created a policy establishing reasonable payment for services provided by private guardians and conservators. For them, as defined in the policy, reimbursement will be at a rate of $200 per month for a guardian or conservator and $300 per month if serving as both. Round-trip mileage would be reimbursed at the current IRS rate for no more than 2 in-person face-to-face visits with the client each year.
Okay, as Sheila had mentioned, we've definitely seen this quite a bit in our workshop. I think we've come to some pretty good numbers here as far as how we need to move forward in order to hold the requirements
Mr. Chair,
together. So,
staff did their due diligence and checking what rates were throughout the state, and these numbers through our workshop made sense, so I'll move to approve.
okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Schmaltz to consider approving the revised McLeod County Guardian and Conservator reimbursement policy. Implementation date of May 1, 2023. Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, consider approving the Children's Mental Health Respite Care Grant Amendment for state fiscal year 2023 and state fiscal year 2024 at a cost of $66,221 with funds from the Human Service Fund. McLeod County is the fiscal host for Renville and Meeker counties as well.
Okay, comments or questions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Kruger, to approve the Children's Mental Health Respite Care Grant Amendment for fiscal year 2023. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
the only thing I'll just add in is we're going to probably see a lot more of this because it all depends on where the funding comes from. But I mean, there's a lot of issues with mental health across the board, let alone, with children's mental health.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up will be Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Consider hiring Winseth from Alexandria, Minnesota to design a pavilion at the McLeod County Fairgrounds at a cost of $97,500 with funds from the designated for capital asset fund. The scope of this work includes completing architectural, structural, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and civil plans by June 16th, 2023. Construction is scheduled to begin after the 2023 McLeod County Fair.
Okay. Questions or comments, anyone? This is an issue that has come out of our Fair Commission. It's the long-range plans that we've had for McLeod County Fairgrounds to add another building. We are up against a timeline to get contractors and so forth lined up in order to get things where we want them to be. So this is the contract that'll get this kick-started. We're a little bit perhaps behind already, but hopefully we can get caught up. And I know Andrew's been working pretty hard with the groups that are involved here, so it should be hopefully kind of fast and furious from here on out, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Just to add on with that, I mean, obviously, the big thing is going to be, it's the amount of money it costs to do it. Everything's very expensive. I mean, we have appropriated the funds. Again, for myself, I like to separate what we're trying to do from the cost, because some of that we have no control over. We appropriated money into fairgrounds and parks, so we have the money. It doesn't put us in a bad way for what we're going to get out of it, so I would move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, a second by Luthens to consider hiring Widseth to design the pavilion at the McLeod County Fairgrounds at a cost of $97,500. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, buckle up, drive safe today. We're expecting more rain than snow, which is good, but we do have the potential for icy roads.
Icy roads. Thank you. Thank you for that. Next up, employee relations.
Good morning.
Morning.
Item A, consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to approve 2 months of unpaid medical leave for one full-time assistant county attorney. This is for a new employee who does not yet qualify for FMLA. The FMLA is eligible for those who have worked for at least 12 months, 1,250 hours. Approving this unpaid leave basically secures their position, and this would be no addition to the budget.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Kruger to approve the Personnel Committee recommendation. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And Hannah, is this a reflection of us showing our willingness to be a good employer to the employees of McLeod County?
Yeah, I think that's right. Commissioner Schmaltz, it's recognizing that people have life events that happen and wanting to employ quality people, while also recognizing that they have life that is happening and working with whatever those situations are. So I would agree, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring that out into the public light and let people know that we want to be as good an employer as possible in this the climate we're in for finding workers and filling positions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I'm glad Commissioner Smalls asked that question, because I'm not going to speak for Commissioner Nagel, but we did review this. Both Mr. Commissioner Nagel and myself are on the Personnel Committee, and we do them on a per or individual basis, and it's a good move.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B is consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to permanently decrease hours for one of our Health and Human Services case aides from 40 hours to 28. Last year, we brought to the board a temporary decrease in hours for this position to take some time to assess the needs and the capacity of the team. After review from the department head and the supervisor, the recommendation is to permanently decrease these hours to 28-hour positions. So this, again, is a decrease in budget for this position.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Thank you. This is what I think we asked, I know we asked of you, and it seems like we're always upping hours or people, but this is something that we take a look at all the time. So I appreciate you following through and bringing it back, so I'll move to approve.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Kruger to approve the Personnel Committee recommendation to permanently decrease hours from the case aid worker from 40 down to 28. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C.
Thank you. Item C is consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to increase hours for one maintenance engineer from part-time to full-time. If the board remembers, this was a budgeted position, a full-time position. We changed the position to 2 part-time positions, and after assessment, have an opportunity to maintain just a full-time. So this is not an addition to the budget, it's actually maintaining what was in the budget already. And we're excited about this moving to just 1 full-time position again.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I also just want to note that when we moved the full-time position down to part-time, that was a temporary adjustment. So there was where we were going to come back in 1 year and possibly ask for that to go back to full-time. So with this change, it actually would be a long-term cost savings by having those 2 people be into 1 instead of a possibility of 1.5 after the year would have completed. And we are really fortunate for the maintenance staff that we have. I know that we asked for the increased coverage at the fairgrounds and environmental services in Hutchinson, and as far as I know that that's working out pretty well, so thank you to the board.
Okay. We have any action items or questions for item C?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
With the explanation given on the request, I would move the request.
Okay. We have a motion by Schmalz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kruger to consider approving the personnel recommendation to increase hours for 1 maintenance engineer, 1 from part-time to full-time. Any further questions? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D.
Item D is consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to temporarily decrease 1 social worker's hours from 40 to 32 while pursuing their master's degree. This is a degree that directly pertains to this employee's work and will impact their knowledge and ability as a social worker in their current position.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
I'll move to approve it.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Nagel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kruger to temporarily decrease 1 social worker's hours from 40 down to 32. Any further discussion?
What's the timeline?
The timeline, it would be a maximum of 2 years, Commissioner Nagel.
Okay. Any further questions? Then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. E.
Consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to temporarily hire 1 seasonal on-call highway maintenance worker to this spring and summer. This temporary position will support blading and training new staff this season, specifically with blading. Due to ongoing highway maintenance worker openings, the current budget will absorb this position, and we are excited about the possibility of bringing, this was a skilled employee who had retired with McLeod County, who has been willing to come back on an on-call basis. Blading is something that's pretty unique for the work that we do, and to be able to use his skills to train our newer staff will be a benefit.
Move request, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Kruger. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is a great idea. I mean, I looked at it at first and I wasn't sure, and being on the Personnel Committee, I appreciate all the transparency and all these, all these requests. It's just great. We've got an excellent staff doing this work. Some days it's trying to figure out for an old guy anyway, to figure out what's up, but it's being proven to work out. This is a good example of something just coming to us with the need of workers, finding a good worker and then get them trained. This is a really good idea, and again, I'm glad they got it done, but it pertains to almost all these requests on what our people are doing, so that's all I have.
Okay. Any further comments? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F.
Thank you. My last item today is consider approving the Personnel Committee recommendation to add 2 part-time correctional officer positions within the McLeod County Jail. The reason for this request is to support staffing and flexibility in the McLeod County Jail. The sheriff and the jail captain are requesting adding part-time positions to the team for that reason. The sheriff's office does currently employ part-time positions for both our deputies and our communication 911 dispatchers. The jail will be able to absorb part-time staffing costs, and they also do have a small budget in 2023 for part-time, and then we'll continue to consider that moving forward. I will just also make the comment, I think the jail correctional officers have been challenging to staff. I would say McLeod County's we've been lucky. We've had some really great staff that have continued to be here. And we hope that adding in a couple of part-time employees will, again, just add to some flexibility, as it has been hard to staff at times.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, a second by Nagel to consider approving personnel recommendation to add 2 part-time correctional officers to the McLeod County Jail. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You guys were
Thank
busy,
you.
weren't you? So. Next up, finance.
I'm a little shorter. Good morning. Item A, consider approving a credit card for the Health and Human Services Child Protection Unit in accordance with the McLeod County credit card policy. Excuse me, this credit card will have a $5,000 monthly limit.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Nagel, second by Kruger to approve a credit card for the Health and Human Services Child Protection Unit. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just, I mean, I'm taking the word from our finance department, but it's easier on the bookkeeping, and I mean, if anybody's concerned about the oversight, the oversight is just as good with the credit card as anything else, so.
And they really need them for going to conferences and things like that, rather than
It
reimbursing.
makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
it's easier both physically, but it's also easier to line item, and I believe.
Okay. Anything else? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
And item B, consider approving a credit card for the Veteran Service Office in accordance with the McLeod County credit card policy. This credit card will actually have a $10,000 monthly limit because they will be using it, they can use it with their grant that they're given each year.
Move to approve for the same reasons.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, second by Schmalz. Any further comments? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Environmental Services.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
One item for you this morning, it is item A, and that is to consider a request from Jeff Nygaard to approve a one-lot preliminary plat, 23-01, to be known as Nygaard Lot for the purpose of a building eligibility. The lot size is 2.22 acres. It is approximately 215.15 by 450.08 and is located in the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 14, Hutchinson Township. It currently is zoned agricultural and, if approved, would remain zoned agricultural, and the existing land use is tillable acreage. Transportation would come off of Major Avenue, which is County Road 4. There has been soil borings performed on this lot, and they do indicate that a standard septic system can be installed for a primary and a secondary site that is required for all lots created after 1996. The National Wetland Inventory Map, NWI map, does not indicate the presence of wetlands. The Hutchinson Town Board did recommend approval at its February 9th, 2023 meeting. The Planning Commission heard this request at its February 22nd, 2023 meeting. That Mr. Nygaard was unable to attend. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial as it does not meet the zoning ordinance requirement of being small and irregular shaped, nor hard to farm due to the applicant creating the hardship. County Board of Commissioners heard this request at its March 7th, 2023 meeting. Due to additional information presented by the applicant, the County Board tabled this request, sent it back to the Planning Commission, which heard the request again at its March 22nd, 2023 meeting, and the Planning Commission recommended denial by a 3-2 vote. The findings of fact were as follows. Number one, they did not believe that it meets the zoning requirement hard to farm. And number two, this property is not irregular shaped. With that being said, the criteria in the ordinance for the board and what the planning commission looks at, and I'll read this directly out of section 7, which is our ag district subdivision 6, higher density development on difficult to farm. In order to reduce the pressure for non-farm development on prime ag land, development of single-family non-farm dwellings shall be permitted through the platting process at a higher density on parcels that are considered difficult to farm. A tract of land may be considered difficult to farm if it has one or more of the following characteristics. Number one, small size or irregular shaped. 2, physical isolation from other farm fields by roads, steep hills, ditches, or similar features. 3, wooded, as defined herein, and in their definition section, wooded refers to as a parcel being 30% wooded or greater. And number 4, containing steep slopes, wetlands, or other environmentally sensitive issues. So that is the criteria that you look at in regarding higher density to farm for untillable land or non-productive soil. With that being said, we do have members of the audience that are here, neighbors to the area. Mr. Nygaard, the applicant, is here if you wish to hear from them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would welcome anybody to come up and speak if the chair would permit it.
Yep.
This is in the district that I represent, and I believe in property rights, and I truly do. And I believe that you get to do things on your property that are within the law, as long as you're not harming your neighbors, flooding them out, et cetera, things like that. Also, but the struggle is, did this become hard to farm on purpose? And I promise you, or promise is bold, but I'm predicting that this will happen more with this. And I guess, and that's what I'm hearing from the people that stop and talk to me, that that's what'll start to happen specifically in this area where these types of developments probably are the most common in the county, Hutchinson Township. So I guess that's my 2 cents for it as of now. We'll see how the vote goes. I appreciate it going back to the Planning Commission. If there can be some sort of synopsis of that meeting, that'd be great. But more than what the verbiage in the agenda said. But those are the things that I've came down to, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I don't think I am. I mean, it really comes down to that.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I would too. I would welcome any, being we heard it in our March meeting, I probably know more about this request than I normally do. That's not in my district, but I would like any additional information that is available today. Otherwise, I see the Hutchinson Town Board approved it. I see there was a split vote on the Planning Commission, so any other opinions, if there's people here willing to talk about it, I'd appreciate that too.
Yep. So go ahead. And when you come up, you please just give your name, address, and then your comments, please. Thanks.
Bob Borka, address 14487 230th Street, Hutch Township, just around the corner from where Jeff wants to build. The county has well, I don't know if you call it a law or an ordinance.
Ordinance.
1 house per 40. That would be the second house per 40. The 2.5 or 2.2 acres that are coming out of production are ag land. It blends right into that field. There's no problem getting to it. There's an approach right next to it. If, the other thing that I'm getting at, if it gets approved, I've got feedlot permit. I am more than a quarter mile away. But John runs that partial. He said, if I run out of area to haul manure, I'm allowed to put it there. Now we've got a problem. Whoever moves into that area, the first person might not mind this at all. The second one might not like the smell or the time of the day we're working that land. We create more problems when you do these little pieces here, there, and everywhere. And you're taking ag land out of production. I farmed all my life. John's farmed all his life. There's a lot of you guys that farmed all your lives. Take it into consideration when you're taking that 2.5 acres out. You go down the road, you start taking out pieces all over. We're losing lots of land in the future. That's one thing I want you to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark, could you just respond to that 1 per 40 and the feedlot setbacks?
So the 1 per 40 that Mr. Bork was referring to is the ordinance permits one non-farm dwelling per quarter section. So the 40 rule, a quarter generally is 40 acres in size. The exclusion is as you move east to west, there are offsets in certain townships on the very west side that is not a full 40, but it's still a quarter section by legal description. So that's, the general rule of thumb is one non-farm dwelling per quarter section. Non-farm refers to any parcels 40 acres and smaller. So that doesn't come in front of you as a board or the planning commission for approval for that eligibility because it's already written into the ordinance, it's permitted. The second one would require to meet the criteria of hard to farm as I laid out what's established in ordinance section 6 on higher density parcels. And if I may, Commissioner Nagel, one of the things that we talked about at the Planning Commission, and I appreciate the synopsis request from the Planning Commission, that's one of the things we discussed because there was discussion centered around you would open this up and there would be no limit in regards to how many homes could be built in a quarter section. And the ordinance says you can only have 4 non-farm dwellings in a quarter before you have to rezone. And the county doesn't allow rezoning, and that was put into place in an amendment back in 2004, that you cannot rezone if you're outside of 2 miles from any city. So there's a cap as long as the criteria is met for creating these hard to farm, higher density developments. So that is one of the things at the Planning Commission that there was a lot of discussion on. There was a lot of information that was provided by the applicant in regards to why he kept 2 acres out versus selling the rest of the land to the neighbor who purchased that, and that did occur, if I believe my math is correct, and I don't want to speak for him, I believe that happened in 2012, 2013, so it was a number of years ago of when that happened. So again, the 1 per 40 is permitted, and if you need to exceed that or would like to exceed that, you have to meet the criteria and ask for a plat. With the exception, we also authored a transfer development right process that's in ordinance where you can move building eligibilities from one quarter to another parcel created as long as it's within the same section and it meets all the criteria of the ordinance for feedlot setbacks, wetlands, issues such as that.
And that meets this qualification? That's my question, really. I mean, there was no variance needed we're not adding a
This request
40, or we're not adding a home to the 44 houses in the
as Mr.
quarter
Bork has
section.
stated, there is one other house in this 40 that's part of a building site up in the northwest corner of this quarter section. And this would be the second, which it would have to meet the criteria in ordinance, and that's what you're looking at today to determine whether or not it meets that criteria of hard to farm.
But if I may, I think Commissioner Kruger is asking probably 2 questions, and I have them too. One is the feedlot setback ordinance, if that even applies, right?
That does not at this time.
And then the other is, my question directly is, we're not transferring building eligibility in this case, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is a plat, this is not a TDR.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Question while we're on the topic of the 1 per 40, how we deal with this today. For example, let's say that one of my children wanted to do a 2-acre lot for a house on my farm. Is there a different criteria applied in that case, being that a family member is platting the 2 acres versus, let's say, a non-family member?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to approach the board?
I got one question yet, Mr.
Yep,
Chair.
go ahead.
I probably asked this already, Mark. Should we have not, could we not stop this in the beginning when it did get split off? Or it doesn't matter what they do with it?
So the splits, if there is a split, per the subdivision ordinance, that requirement has to be done via survey, and it's supposed to be approved by our office prior to a deed being recorded, so that situations like this, we could potentially advise on. Does that always happen? No. So in the past, we've had this discussion, and over the years, I don't know exactly the years we've talked about. This goes back to when Carmen Osley, when I first started, and she was our recorder. We talked about this. But the recorder's office also operates under a statute that says if things are put in proper legal format in front of them, they're obligated to record it. So that makes it for difficulty in timelines if it hasn't gone through a process for our review. That process has gotten a lot better. I mean, our recorder's office and our office work very well together, and the title companies in our area always check in prior to filing that deed. So to answer your question, could it have been? Yes. But again, that information isn't consistent if people work on these splits, if you will, and they're not local. I mean, they're title agents or attorneys or surveyors that are not from this area.
So for what reason could we have stopped that?
So I don't.
Same reason we got today?
The split, going back to 2012, whether it was caught or not caught, I don't know that that could have been stopped. If this one here at the sketch plan level in the beginning of this process, that's one of our conceptual meetings where if we felt that this didn't meet the criteria, that really in the process is where we look at, does it meet the criteria without a public hearing? So there are fail-safes, if you will. There are points in the process where, yes, it could have been caught.
Thank you.
I believe we have someone that wants to address the board there.
My name is John Adamic, 23497 County Road 7, Hutchinson, Minnesota. In 2012, I believe, I bought the rest of the farm from Jeff Nygaard, and at that time, he had decided to split this off for a building site for his son. And at the time, I didn't even realize that his existing house was in this 40, so I didn't have a problem with it really at that time either. But I guess the parcel itself was made artificially, the boundaries. And as far as the higher density populations of houses, to me, I think that the lot should be bordered by trees or surrounded by woods or something like that to have a natural boundary for creating these extra building eligibilities. Me personally, I think I went through and I said I could probably find 27 lots that I could do the same thing to just by calling a surveyor up and saying I want to make 2.5 acre lots on all my existing 40 acres. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's just setting the stage that I think this is going to be a bigger problem down the road. That if people are able to create a subdivision artificially, then what's to stop it down the road, I guess. That's, I guess, my opinion on it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, clarification, Mark, I mean, we're getting out in the weeds here, and that's okay, I guess, but I don't know as long as we're not overdoing the houses, I mean, I have a trouble with the terminology of subdivision. Is that what it's legally called, is a subdivision? Or is
Yeah, a subdivision referring to it's a split, and they're really requiring or asking for an additional building eligibility. So kind of dovetails on Commissioner Luthen's question. The split, I don't know, is really the problem. It's the fact that what you want to do with that small piece once it's split. We have several small tracts of land that you have a boundary, a legal description boundary that they're farmed through, that a rental agreement will farm through that boundary. This is the question of a subdivision, meaning the split, and adding an entitlement to that so you can convert it from tillable land into a building site. So subdivision is the correct term based on ordinance that we currently have.
Again, respecting people's property rights, but four homes per quarter, right, can start to add up pretty fast. And I think that's, again, repeating my previous comments, that's where it starts to get troublesome for me. Because hard to farm has also been topics that we brought up regarding solar gardens, other building eligibilities. And yeah, it's, again, I truly do respect people's rights on their own land more than probably I can articulate here. But, yeah, those are just some things that I think we need to be aware of as we potentially set some precedents today. Would you agree?
Thank you, Mr. Nagel, Commissioner Nagel. So I know that through the training that I've had, and I could defer to our attorney, part of what you're referring to is an equal protection clause. You know, and you have to have two applications that are identical, that are in the same time frame, meaning day, side by side, where you approve one or deny the other one, you know, and everything being equal. So past boards in your position, they've looked at criteria maybe a little bit differently based on the way this ordinance is written. And especially on the east side of the county, we don't have larger fields that necessarily are going to receive a higher rental contract. Not saying that's not being paid today, but when we talked about the transfer development right process in the early 2000s, it was centered around that. When you get to the western side of the county, you have some very large contiguous pieces of land that producers don't want to carve up building sites in the middle of an 80 on an interior, and they would like to move those out closer to the road. And they could be put anywhere. So yes and no, that precedence is a tough word because every two sites may not be equal when you're reviewing this. And over my time here, I've seen 8 and 10 acre building sites that are tillable that don't have trees. They are isolated. You could get to them from a larger field, but you got to run through some access road that connects. And past boards have looked at that as being considered hard to farm. So I'm not trying to lead the board into that decision. I'm saying that every board has a little bit different opinion in regards to when they review the criteria that's in front of you. And one could show that this was part of a larger field. So I don't disagree with that concept that's been brought up, that it's man-made, that the split created maybe the small irregular shaped piece. Unfortunately, the criteria in the ordinance, it doesn't, what I read to you, it doesn't say that it can't be.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we're looking at no matter what the vote is, we're looking at the big picture here.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, good.
I like to be consistent. I'm really struggling with this one. Inconsistent. I understand the hard to farm, but I also understand that things are changing a lot. I mean, your cities are, smaller cities especially, are all they're maxed out. So a house in the country with a septic tank and all that is an addition. And in my district, I have a couple of places where people just built new houses in the middle of a farm field. One in particular is my neighbor, and he's legal. I mean, he didn't need anything. He qualified and put it right in the middle of a big farm. And these building sites now are ridiculously high priced. They're, in my words, ridiculously high priced, but I have some building sites, and what they're worth, just a bit. I mean, people are paying, a lot of money for these building sites. Not that pertains to today, but prices are driven by supply and demand. And if I look at the good of the whole county, I'm on the eastern side, so I deal a lot with Wright and Carver counties, and right now we're not competitive in our home in our property taxes. They're actually cheaper than ours are because of the density. My words again, don't take none of this to the courts, but I do, I watch it. And I'm struggling with this in trying to be consistent, because property rights probably rule, the hard to farm. The way the laws are going, who are we really penalizing with some of this hard to farm ordinance? I mean, so I'm pretty sure which way I'm leaning here, but I'm just trying to say that I'm probably going to look at not being very consistent with how I vote today. But I understand both sides, and we'll just have to go from there. All I'm trying to lay out, for the good of the county, we need some property taxes for everybody's to go down. I hate to be that blunt, or maybe that's not very scientific, but everybody's complaining about how hard the tax. Well, we need people on my side of the county to come in and build these houses, probably in the rural areas, because their cities can't afford to put in new septics or put in infrastructure. So I guess that's all I have right now.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and kind of goes back to Commissioner Nagel's question. The comp plan, we are an egg preservation county, which is why we have that hard to farm criteria and ordinance. That's how it was established. So McLeod County appreciates the balance. Over the years that I've worked on administrating the ordinance, they appreciate the balance. So if the egg sector is suppressed or down a little bit, typically the commercial or the industrial is up. So we've always had a good balance in regards to mixed industry, and supporting ag is a very strong priority, as I think all of you are aware of some things that we've gone through in the past and looking at plans. So in regards to the hard to farm criteria, that is it's not a hard concrete rule. And that's where the 1 per 40 rule that exists, if you were to cut McLeod County in half, north to south, and you have an east and a west half, if you go on the eastern side, I can't tell you percentage-wise, but there are a few 40s that don't have a home in them. And that's just because of the history of how the ordinance was created, and this was established in 1981. So there's a lot of years behind that statement. And that's not a reason to approve or deny something. I'm just trying to lay out history of how we got to the point that we're in.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And I think Mark touched on this a bit, and I think these considerations, these big picture considerations are fine, but I think we have to remember it's in the context of what the ordinance, the ordinance kind of sets forth what those big picture considerations are. Consistent, it sets a process, sets a procedure, and these decisions really do, you can factor in all of those things, but really need to be, based on the criteria that the ordinance sets forth. So, it's okay to talk about these bigger concepts, and I think it's probably appropriate to, but at the end of the day, what you're being tasked with is really working through these criteria. And so I hear that referenced, and we're drifting away from that a bit in the comments, but, just to tie that back into the final decision really ought to be made with those specific criteria in mind. And I think that's what everyone's talking about, but just a reminder. And I don't know if that anything there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Luthens, as Planning Commission, have you heard some discussion, or some items that were brought up that day that haven't been covered here today at all that would?
It's been pretty well covered with Mark's comments. But through the solar panels, all those meetings, and now this one, I do believe it doesn't fit in. It should be, it's not irregular, or have 30% trees. And there's other properties that could be used better than this one. So saying that, I'd make a motion that we deny this request.
Okay, we have a motion of denial by Commissioner Luthens. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Nagel. Any discussion? And I'll add this as a comment. So I definitely can see both sides of this, but there's a pattern that I would hope that we would avoid, and that is Granted, when this land was originally, divided, or whatever terminology we want to use years ago, it might not have been for the intentions that we're seeing today, but as we see more and more farmland go towards that, that absentee landowner, and then it comes up for sale. I would hope that we don't see a growing pattern out there of, let's take a mass of tillable acreage and sliver off a little corner and sell the tillable acreage for 10, and then try to pull a housing eligibility for 30 an acre, and just try to raise more revenue from that. So again, it's not quite what happened completely with this scenario, but I would like to get in the way of that happening in the future. As we see more and more land changing hands rapidly out there, as it's inherited by kids or whatever that don't want anything to do with the farm, that is going to burn up our farmland, I think, quite quicker than it should, by just finding opportunities to locate housing eligibilities out there. I've heard discussions that the 1 per 40 is not good enough. We should be 1 per 80. We should be doing more of a job of preserving. So I think I will agree with the motion to deny today, based on the reasons that have been stated. So, yep, that'll be my reasons.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
it's very difficult to work with some neighbors if you get some in there that are not liking farming. We've been through that a lot, and they can come out there and say yes, but who was there first? And how do you get along with them when they just ride you every day?
Any further
Mr.
comments?
Chair?
Go ahead.
It's very difficult for me as well, but my decision is gonna be made on different things that are happening right now in the rural areas. I'm a farm guy at heart, so I'm an ag guy, and I believe in all that, but I'm also, in this case, I'm looking at the township board's unanimous decision to approve. They live right there. They're the closest thing you have to representation in that area, and I see that was approved, and I did do some research on the 3-2 on the planning commission, and I'm probably more in agreement with the 2 than I am the 3, so that's all I really have to say. I don't like the idea of, I don't think of it as setting precedents. I think, we've pretty much talked that to death on what there is, but I mean, was no variance needed. There was some things in the property rights thing. It's getting harder and harder to come by, but, so that's where I'm at, so we'll.
Okay. Any further comments? Anything else? I think we're to the end. We will now proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Okay, we will go by roll call vote. Commissioner Nagel?
Aye.
I'm yes. Commissioner Kruger?
No.
Commissioner Schmalz?
Yes.
Commissioner Luthens?
Yes.
Motion to deny is approved by 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One item today, consider adopting Resolution 23CB32, consent to appointment of Tamara Pischke to be an Assistant McLeod County Attorney effective April 17, 2023. Just for a short bit of information, Ms. Pischke is currently employed as an Assistant County Attorney in the Seward County Attorney's Office, has been there since approximately 2021, and previously had worked for one of our the judges chambered here in McLeod County as a staff attorney from 2020 to 2021. So she has some local experience and connections, as well as experience as an assistant. So we are excited at the prospect of getting her on board. So I'm asking you to consider this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, questions, comments? Go ahead.
Understanding county attorney's challenges and what's going through and his explanation for the person, I would move to approve the appointment.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schmaltz to approve adopting Resolution 23 CB 32. Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. County Administration. Go with our calendars first. Commissioner Nagel.
Try to be brief. A lot of discussion regarding the, well, after the workshop, meeting and workshop a couple weeks ago, we had a good conversation, information regarding the potential Excel power lines. So I've had a lot of phone calls as that does, as others, but affects the district I represent. So a lot of phone calls and trying to get those people to the right people with, so they can get their questions answered. Joint ditch meeting with several other counties held here. It was a good, productive meeting. We were able to discuss current and future projects that I think make a lot of sense. Fair board meeting that we discussed a little bit earlier regarding the pavilion project, and went over that with the overall group. And then also several items that we don't have to rehash, but personnel committee discussions throughout the last couple weeks.
Okay. Over the past couple weeks, had an extension meeting where the selection was made for the Farm Family of the Year. The Fair Board meeting, Commissioner Nagel covered, had a meeting with Judicial Ditch number 1 on a cleanout project. Had one watershed, one plan of the South Fork Crow River, the joint ditch meeting that was discussed. Let me see, yesterday met with staff up at Environmental Services, Mark Telecki with the DNR, local landowners, Brown Run Gun Club, on continuing our work with the invasive species of carp on Lake Marion and how we can benefit the water quality for the McLeod County Park System. A pretty neat meeting. We actually have everybody working together, so hopefully we can maintain that. It's nice to see continued progress with all these groups heading in the same direction. So that's it for mine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the last meeting, I've had an HRA meeting. I've on the 22nd, on the 24th. We had our annual joint ditch meeting with our surrounding counties. Just going through projects that we've done and coming up, and different cost issues, budgeting issues. That same afternoon, the county won. We had a ditch meeting with that. I believe that's a joint ditch as well. Just a preliminary meeting. I had a budget committee environmental meeting on the 27th. On the 28th, Buffalo Creek Watershed board meeting. And that afternoon, we finished up we had a continued informational meeting with JD1 here at the Government Center on the 30th. I had an agenda review. Yesterday, we had our MRC meeting, very well attended. Our MRC seems to be growing with some new members, new member counties, and some potential new member counties. So I'm excited about that. The staff that's running this MRC right now, we have a firm that consists of some lobbyists that are working in St. Paul. I don't know how much good we're getting done this year with the divided or with the trifecta that's in the state, but we are very well informed, and we're doing a good job. At least they recognize the outlying counties. And I also almost simultaneously was working with our audit. We had I don't know what the right word is. I'll let Sheila comment on it. It went very well. It was a 2021 audit exit meeting, it was called, and it was, as far as a layman on the board, I just, everything went really well. Again, I'll let our administrator comment on that. That brings me to today.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger. On my calendar, after the last board meeting on the 21st of March, we were all here for a workshop. And then that afternoon, I attended a well-being committee meeting by Zoom. It's a committee assignment that I take care of. On the 23rd of March, I had a UCAP Joint Powers Board Zoom meeting. On the 24th, Friday of March, I was present for the joint ditch meeting held here at the Government Center in Glencoe. And yesterday, I attended the MRC Zoom meeting that Commissioner Kruger referenced, and he referenced that very well, so I don't need to be repetitive on what was covered. And then this morning before board meeting, I was part of a ditch meeting that we conducted with staff here at the Government Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmaltz. I'm going to read off of my computer. I left my calendar on the desk. So on the 21st, we did have that workshop, and the 22nd on Wednesday, planning and zoning. We move into the Friday, the 24th, the ditch meeting that we all attended. And on the 27th, on Monday, had AMC Zoom meeting. And also I attended the Buffalo Watershed District meeting. And then on the rest of the week, I attended the AMC Leadership Summit at Grandview Lodge in Nissawau. So that was on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Very well attended, very interesting, one of the better seminars I've been to. Brian Miller was the main speaker, and he's kind of like a magic guy and bringing it into our everyday life, and it's pretty interesting. So thank you. Yesterday, Monday, I also attended the MRC meeting. It brings me up to today.
Okay.
One other thing, excuse me. Paul and I did attend the Dairy Princess on
That's right, we
Saturday.
did. That's right, we did.
So, go ahead, Paul. That was a pretty big deal.
Sure. Yeah, I can cover that a little bit. Every year, McLeod County Dairy Promotion Board has their princess coronation, and so that's one of those things that when you have young ladies in the dairy industry, they always get to look forward to riding in parades, promoting dairy products, and then eventually being crowned as princess. And last year, our family got to enjoy the opportunity as our daughter Allison was a finalist for Princess K, and that's kind of the big deal towards the end of the year. So it starts in the spring with their coronation banquet. As our girls are getting older, they get to partake in that and then retire out through it. And so I've got one daughter left that was able to receive her crown this year, and then the Luthens family gets to begin their journey through all that as Daryl's granddaughter began the ambassador program, and so she'll be riding in parades, and so that's definitely gets to be a lot of fun watching those young ladies grow up through all those events and eventually be able to be those crown and sash participants at that spring event. So
Thank you.
yep. County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a lot to report. Most of my time has been spent internal in the office, keeping up with our day-to-day tasks and those priority items, and that's been going well, thanks in part to a couple of meetings ago. The board authorized a temporary appointment to bring back Mr. Young, and so he's been back. That's been helpful. The rest of the staff during this recent turnover and with upcoming turnover has been quite flexible, willing to put in the extra work and time and take on new tasks, so that's been much appreciated. So we are doing well. We're keep it up, so please continue to route things our way. We plan on providing a high level of service even during this time of transition, and the board's assistance has been appreciated, so looking forward to do that, so thank you.
Okay. And up to the administrator.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that our next county board meeting on April 18th is also our Student Government Day. And we'll have students from surrounding school districts attending the board meeting. And then they'll go over to the courthouse and the law enforcement center with us for that day. Our department heads will meet with them. They will meet with people from the court, so they'll meet with judges. And it's always been a great day. So thank you to the teachers throughout the county that have made that work for their student groups. And thank you to the board for taking the time to be there that day as well. Commissioner Kruger mentioned our audit exit meeting. That's an annual requirement. The county board will have at an upcoming workshop a review of a summary of that, and just like every other year, going through those requirements. So it would be Commissioner Kruger at that meeting because it's always for the past chair. And then the following year would be, of course, Commissioner Wright. I'm going to move on to item A unless there's any questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Consider adopting Resolution 23-CB-33, supporting and agreeing to the amended Minnesota Opioid State Subdivision Agreement and authorizing execution of additional settlement documents, which was in your packet.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any problem with it, but is there any comment from Ryan on what this really means?
Well, this is similar to, there's been similar settlements that have already been entered into. This is a continuation of that. This is a matter where we do have outside counsel assisting. So again, these as far as it being a litigation, it's one that we've certainly benefited from, and there hasn't been seemingly a lot of downside. So the agreement I've reviewed, it looks consistent with the past that we've already participated in, and I certainly recommend moving forward with this as
Is
well.
it in addition to the, I guess that my question is why another resolution? I remember so just give me the
Sure.
reason for the other resolution.
Fair enough. This involves additional parties as far as defendants that would be paying or the companies that would be contributing. So yes, same matter essentially, but additional settlements.
Thank you. I guess with that, I'd move to approve.
And second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kruger, second by Schmaltz to consider adopting Resolution 23-CB-33, amended Minnesota Opioids State Subdivision Agreement. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do we have a dollar figure that we've received already? I think Wright County got some.
There was a figure, I don't.
It changes often. Commissioner Luthen's, we receive payments continually. They're usually pretty small. It comes in chunks. I don't have a balance for you today, I'm sorry, but we can get that for you if you visit Clean's office, and we can give updates as well.
I read their article and they had a big amount of money and they're trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Thank you. Consider approving hiring Contegrity Group as project managers to manage the anticipated project of installing an elevator system at the Environmental Services Facility at a cost of $22,750. That would just be for the project management, of course, and that would use funds from the County Buildings Major Repairs Fund. We've been discussing this for quite some time. We knew that to utilize that second floor of the Environmental Services Facility, that this would be on the horizon. We tried to do it a couple of years ago. The vendor was not available, and now we are looking at a different placement for that elevator, so we would need some assistance.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I guess that's in my calendar report. That's when we met over there in the Budget Committee, along with Mark and I and Sheila, and I. This is another one of them times I got to separate the need from the costs. The building is in need of that elevator to be handicap compliant. I think preliminary locations we looked at is an asset to the building. I guess I really don't know what else to say. We've got some options, and this is Contegrity's been good for us so far. I don't want to jinx that, but they've been good for us, and they'll give us some options. And with that, I'd move to approve.
Okay. I will second the motion. The motion by Kruger, second by Wright, to consider hiring Contegrity Group at a cost of $22,750 with funds from the county building major repairs fund. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C, notification of McLeod Drainage Authority public hearing on the engineer's historical review report of the drainage system as originally constructed or subsequently improved of County Ditch 12A. The Drainage Authority will hear public comment regarding the engineer's report at 1:00 p.m. on Thursday, April 20th, 2023, here in the Martin McLeod Boardroom at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item D, notification of McLeod Drainage Authority public meeting on the petition to tile received on County Ditch 16. The Drainage Authority will meet to set a public hearing date on the petition to tile property at 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, April 20, 2023, here in the Martin McLeod Boardroom, McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item E, notification of McLeod Drainage Authority informational landowners meeting on the redetermination of benefits of County Ditch 5. There will be a presentation by the viewers at 2:00 p.m. on Monday, April 17, 2023, in the Martin McLeod Boardroom here at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. F, notification of McLeod Drainage Authority public hearing on the redetermination of benefits of County Ditch 5. The Drainage Authority will accept public comment regarding the redetermination of benefits at 2:00 p.m. on Friday, April 28, 2023, in the Martin McLeod Boardroom, McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Item G, notification of board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, April 18, 2023, at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. I do anticipate that that board workshop may be removed because it is Student Government Day. However, we will be reserving the time in the case that we have items of review. And I believe that, Mr. Chair, a commissioner requested to reopen.
Yes, we do have an issue that we need to see. Commissioner Kruger, do you want to go ahead with that?
Right, I apologize. I didn't read all my notes until we were started here. It's time sensitive, so my request is to add an agenda item, if that's the right way to phrase it, but it's a non-controversial thing. I got a text last night. I had been talking to some of the city council members here in Glencoe, and there seems to be a number of questions on the turnbacks. And I got Andrew's attention, so you can comment if you want, but what they're looking for, and they voted last night at their meeting unanimously to ask us to do a workshop. And with that workshop, we'd need you and Andrew, our engineer, and probably Justin, which the city will do. And what I'm looking for today is to get approval for our administrator to set up a workshop sooner than later, because there's some things there that are in motion. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's some questions I can't answer, so.
Yes, so, looking back a few months, this jurisdictional turnback transfer, it's really a jurisdictional realignment through the city of Glencoe here. That's come before the county board at a couple of workshops. It's come before the city of Glencoe City Council at a couple of workshops. It's been brought to my attention they have a few questions, a few concerns, some things that the county staff, engineering staff, and city engineering staff with SEH have to take a look into. And So,
The request kind of evolved out of doing it together. I mean, we're doing, I'm getting called, it's he said, she said, but we've never done one together. Why this? There's a couple new councilmen, and probably some others that hadn't paid full attention until people are asking questions. So again, without getting into weeds, again, my request is to just authorize our staff to set up a workshop that, that it would include the city council and the county board.
sure.
And obviously, you and SCH.
Do they throw any dates out with that?
No, just sooner than later. They did give me, and I forgot to bring, I'll get it to Sheila. They gave me their county, or their city calendar. But it's going to be, one of those, I know Mondays and Fridays are going to be the dates that because one of their councilmen travels, or Tuesday, whatever. Tuesday may work. Again, that's why I'm bringing it up. There's no way I could have accomplished this behind the scenes, and I wanted the approval of the board to spend our administrators' time doing this. I think it's very beneficial for both of us, because I don't know, you guys know the formulas. I think you're going to be a great asset, new eyes on it, and you've dealt with it a lot of places, because I have no idea who it benefits, because it's all it's my district, it's taxpayer money, so just a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
let's do it. It's not
Yeah.
overcomplicated. It's something that I've been on the board going on 9 years now. We've talked about, but yeah, I totally respect it.
Is that a motion to approve the?
I don't know if we need one, just a second.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, we're always open to communicate with any of the cities, and I hope that is the message that I want to get out. Ryan, I will make a motion if we need one, but do we need a true formal motion to set a workshop at the city of Glencoe right now, or can that just be scheduled and then publicized?
Yeah, just notification,
Okay.
schedule and notification.
And we don't
already
know a
fine.
date, correct? We haven't
I do
hired-
not.
Yeah.
So,
And that's kind of what that's fine with me, the transparency of our administration spending the time to get this set up, that's all.
And I don't know if this message will get out, but please know that any of the cities we've worked with Hutch, we've had joint meetings with Glencoe,
Yep.
where it's been talked about, maybe not in enough detail, and that's fair. But across the board, let's make that part of what we do, in my opinion.
Yep, I will add that, we are getting closer to the finish line on, doing, acting on something here. So there's a few more details, so it probably is a really good idea to do this. I know there is some concerns from some of the Glencoe residents and city council members, which is perfectly fair, that we need to, as engineers, take a look at and get some more information to be brought forward to address those concerns.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So we're trying not to have a workshop on April 18th, and I would think that maybe pushing it out to have a workshop after our meeting, after our next county board meeting, is too long away. So would it be fair for, I think Andrew and I will just arrange something, and it may need to be in an evening.
What is
So
there,
we'll just arrange something, and the notification process will be followed. They don't require votes, there's no stars by workshops on the agenda, and we'll get that out today, if possible. We'll try our best.
how many days in advance do you have to notify for a workshop?
Stefan? We'll find out.
Okay.
And again, I know that the thought was, just for your information,
Okay.
Sheila, is the hospital as well wants to be included.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We will get the notification out. Andrew and I will talk this afternoon.
Thank you very
All right.
much, board.
Yep. All right, we are, with that, we're up to open forum or press relations. Anything from anyone? Seeing nothing, we're up to a motion to recess.
I so move.
Motion by Luthen, second by?
Second.
By Commissioner Schmaltz to approve going into recess. Our next county board meeting, 9 a.m. Tuesday, April 18th, McLeod County Boardroom. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.